Operation Confidence proudly presents America's Invisible Heroes Talk Radio Show. Tune in weekly on Sundays from 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. Pacific Time with your host, Consuelo Mackey. Co-host, Air Force veteran Matt Davidson. Announcers, Taylor Marcella and Brooke Gadesi. U.S. Army veteran and entertainment segment host, Charles Whitehead. U.S. Army veteran and Strategies for Hope segment host, Dr. Kathy Cash. U.S. Army veteran and Lifeline for Women Veterans segment host, Martha Elena Varela. National Director of Faith Services, Chaplain, and Veterans in Recovery segment host, Anthony Acampora. And U.S. Air Force veteran and Incarcerated to Success segment host, Kevin Lewandowski. For more information or to be a guest on our show, email info@operationconfidence.org.
Operation Confidence, America's invisible hero, invisible hero.
Operation Confidence is a grassroots nonprofit. The organization's mission is to provide stable housing for veterans who have experienced homelessness, as well as providing a wide range of supportive services. To help accomplish our goal, a successful landowner has donated land for the project, a world-renowned architect has offered to design the houses, and construction classes from the local community colleges will take part in building the houses. Your support and donations are needed. To get involved, please visit our website at www.operationconfidence.org or email info@operationconfidence.com.
Welcome, everyone. And thank you for tuning in to America's Invisible Heroes, the show that is dedicated to our veterans and their families. Yes, I'm your host, Consuelo Mackey, Executive Director of a grassroots nonprofit organization called Operation Confidence. No, I'm not a veteran, but my heart goes out to our American heroes, especially those with disability and may have experienced homelessness. For those of you that are new to the show, American Invisible Heroes was created to provide a platform for our veterans to be able to share their experiences, heartfelt stories, resources, and challenges. Now, today, our little, I call her my baby girl, Taylor Marcella is out today. She had an emergency. And my buddy Charles, who's our entertainment host, and also one of our, our U.S. Army Reserve veteran, Charles Whitehead, has the flu. So our board president, Jimmy McGee, is going to take it from here after I present the rest of our co-hosts for today. Okay, we have U.S. Army veteran Matt Davidson, who's our board vice president. We have U.S. Army veteran, as I said, Charles Whitehead. He's a little under the weather. And we have U.S. Navy veteran Calvin Poole, who has a monthly segment called Blind Veterans of America. Now, we're going to take it away and let Jimmy take it from here. Jimmy.
Thank you, Consuela. Hello, everyone. My name is Jim McGee. Hello. Yes. Now, in observance of the month of February, we have what we call Black History Month. So I'm going to kind of chime in on that, but I want to do it a little different for the next week or two. We celebrate Black History Month as a U.S. type of situation, but Black history goes back thousands of years. So maybe next week I'll kind of dig into that a little bit and talk a little bit about that. Okay, but right now I want to talk about entertainment. Now, everyone has heard of the Cotton Club. Everyone has heard of the Apollo Theater. Everyone in America is familiar with these venues for Black entertainment on the East Coast. But the West Coast, however, had a major entertainment center of its own. This entertainment center was Black-owned and Black-built, unlike the Cotton Club and the Apollo Theater. These venues serviced Black patrons, white Hollywood celebs, and Black political and intellectual leaders. Central Avenue, the Dunbar Hotel, and the Lincoln Theater was Los Angeles Black Mecca. From the 1920s to the early 50s, lifestyle and jazz flourished around Central Avenue. Now, New York had its Cotton Club and its clientele, but nothing like Central Avenue. Central Avenue jazz scene included Duke Ellington, Cab Calloway, Louis Armstrong, Billie Holiday, Josephine Baker, Lionel Hampton, Count Basie, Nat King Cole, Lena Horne, and many others. The Hollywood scene included William Randolph Hearst, Marion Davis, Betty Davis, Mae West, and later Marilyn Monroe, who spent time at the 5-4 Ballroom. Now, the hub of Los Angeles Black culture was the Dunbar Hotel. It was known as the West Coast mixture of the Waldorf Astoria and the Cotton Club. Originally known as the Somerville Hotel in 1928, it was built in 1928 by John and Veda Somerville, and it was built by Black contractors, and it came to represent Black achievement in the community. Now, John Somerville was also the first Black to complete his education at the University of Southern California, my alma mater, USC. And from my understanding now, they have a residential community named after him. Now, let's get to the Dunbar Hotel. Now, the Dunbar Hotel had a restaurant, a cocktail lounge, barbershop, and an entertainment section. Jack Johnson, we all know, was the first Black heavyweight boxing champion, had a nightclub at the Dunbar Hotel. Now, the Dunbar Hotel was very popular with the white community also. Many from Hollywood spent their Saturday nights at the Dunbar and the surrounding nightclubs. Oh, coincidentally, the late great Bing Crosby, the singer, actually bounced a check at the Dunbar Hotel, but don't tell anyone. Okay, now the Dunbar Hotel opened so traveling Black performers who were denied rooms in downtown Los Angeles could live elegantly in Los Angeles. The Dunbar also became the place where Black political and intellectual leaders and writers would come and stay. People included Langston Hughes, W.E.B. Du Bois, who's the founder of the NAACP, Ralph Bunche, Thurgood Marshall, and James Weldon, all gathered to speak about the future of Blacks in America. Now, the sidewalk in front of the hotel was considered the most desirable place to hang out in LA. And Central Avenue was considered the coolest street. Now, on Central Avenue, there was the Lincoln Theater, which opened its doors in 1927. It was referred to as the West Coast Apollo Theater because it featured many of the same acts. In the 1930s, there were at least 5 theaters along Central Avenue corridor. It was the Lincoln, the Globe, the Angelus, the Hub, and the Tavila. There is one theater I must mention, the Bill Robinson Theater, which was built a few years later. Bill Robinson was, of course, in attendance at the opening. This theater will always have a special place in my heart because during my first 2 years in college, I worked there as an usher. I was called the college boy. Now, there were so many beautiful and wonderful and exciting growth experiences during that era on Central Avenues that's being lost and devalued. Nothing has been presented on a grand scale about this part of not only Black history, but Los Angeles and American history. There has been movies made about Cotton Club, words spoken in reverence about Harlem, the Apollo Theater, and New York, and rightly so. I mean, they deserve this respect. But in my opinion, I'm an LA dude, in my opinion, Central Avenue, the Dunbar Hotel, the Lincoln Theater, and the surrounding venues, which were Black owned and Black built and operated, tops any of those East Coast establishments. Thank you very much. This is the college boy, who's an old college man now. Oh, thank you very much. There's something else I want to mention. I forgot. I believe Miss Consuela Mackey's mother had a thriving business on Central Avenue. Is that right, Miss Mackey? Well, thank you very much. But if you want to know anything more, information, I have ammunition to spark some interest. You can get probably in touch with me through Operation Confidence. I want to thank you so much. And also I want to say, look up Consuela Mackey's history and Operation Confidence history on YouTube. There's a lot of information there. And thank you for your time. Thank you for being so kind. And thank you for listening. Back over to you, Consuela. Can you hear me?
She's muted, I think.
We're gonna turn it over to you, Matt. Oh, and by the way, my track record is on Google, not YouTube. Okay,
Sorry.
Matt, you ready, my friend?
Okay, yes. I'm gonna read a poem from my book, and the name of this poem is called Drive By. From the corner of your eye, driving by, you see her again, pushing her life in a cart down lifeless, clogged arteries, and you think you know her. Wind whips artery, tatters through her swollen, festering legs that used to run like a deer and leap into the loving arms in another time, another place, when she was a dancer, the belle of the ball. But you didn't see the grace or the beauty that prompted gentlemen callers to call and fall in love with her, this woman who moved like the swan. Her lips move response to hovering spirits that linger from the past when life was warm and safe and full. And you think she's insane. You judge her. Spirits guide her safely through another vulnerable night into the dumpster morning where the lost share what's left over. One day, just like another, like the last, while you drive by. It's sad that you never knew her, the child, the swan, the belle of the ball, or hear her laughter, or wipe away the tears, or embrace the woman and understood her journey. It's safer to just drive by and judge. That is, until her cart stands empty and her voice joins the others who hover in the seat next to you. And that is from my book, Lost and Found.
And where can you purchase your book, Matt? Other than on Operation Confidence website.
It is, I think, but also you can purchase it from Barnes and Noble bookstore or from Amazon Books. What they need is the title, Lost and Found, and the name, which is Matt Davison, and then they can pull up the book.
Okay.
But
Okay.
this
That's
is just
beautiful.
one of a number of poems and essays that have been written and that I like to share from time to time on Operation Confidence.
Thank you so much. That's
Thank
so
you.
okay. I know you have to go in a little bit, but we're going to move right on to Jimmy. Can you introduce our next guest, which is U.S. Navy veteran Calvin Poole?
Yes, Mr. Poole. I'm kind of I don't understand. What do you need me to do?
Introduce him. Please read his bio for me, and then he'll
Oh,
come on after that.
I don't have his bio.
Yes, you do. It's on the script. Stroll down after Matt. It's right there.
Yes, ma'am.
Here it is. You a teacher.
I'm so sorry. I was so busy putting together my piece that I'm so sorry that I kind of dropped the ball on this.
Yeah, you did. Okay, you ready?
No, I haven't found.
Okay, anyway, Calvin Poole is the past president of the Tennessee Regional Group of Blind Veterans Association. He is currently the secretary treasurer of the Tennessee Regional Group of the BVA, and also the regional for the BVA, also a regional BVA ambassador. He is also the chairman of the BVA and for the Gold Age Games. Calvin is the co-founder and president of the executive board of the Tri-State Adaptive Sports Association. The purpose of TASA is to help improve the quality of life of persons with physical and mental challenges through adaptive sports. We're going to, and actually how to get in touch with Calvin, you can either call him at 901-384-7440, or the email is tasaweb.org. Calvin, take it away and introduce your guest for today.
Thank you. Kind of one correction first, though. The telephone number is 901-304-7440.
Oh, it's my mistake. So sorry.
That's okay. I want to thank you, first of all, your board and the college man for his historical lesson for it, because I'm consider myself a good historian, and I never heard that story about LA. So I'm glad I got a chance to listen to that today. Thanks so much.
Mm-hmm.
I also want to introduce my friend and co-host, Mashawn Harrison, that helps me a great deal to put on the Blinded Veterans, Helping Blinded Veterans segment. And today we have two guests. Our first guest is Qadir Abdus-Sabur. If I messed it up, Qadir, I'm sorry. And the other guest is
Sabur.
Sabur. Okay, thank you, Qadir. And the other guest is George Brummell. And I was wondering, Connie, if you could allow Qadir to share his screen. He has some information that he would like to share that has been made adaptive for people with visual impairment, so they can listen to it. Is that possible?
Sure. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Okay, here we go now. Okay, we're going to make him a co-host, and there you go. It's ready.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I wasn't aware that I was going to share my screen, so I have everything online so everybody can pull down a copy themselves. In the script, there's a link to tinyurl, tinyurl.com/SB020424. And that's a link right in the script. And if everyone was just on their phone or wherever it's convenient for them, just pull that click on that link, and on your screen, whether you're on the phone or computer, whatever the case may be, you'll get a copy of what I intend to present today. I
Okay,
would have had it
Sheldon.
on my screen right now, but I didn't.
Well,
Excuse me?
Qadir, if you're not prepared to share your
Yeah.
screen, I thought we had talked. I thought we were just going to share your screen. So if I misinterpret, please
Charles
forgive me.
can share it for me. I
Yeah.
think he's ready. Charles, can you share it, please?
Yes, I can do that. Hold on.
Okay. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you.
Well, that's the book, right? There's about 11 pages or something like that. Am I correct, Qadir?
Yes, that's the presentation. Yes.
Okay, I got you.
You know, with this low vision, I can't do two things fast. I got to plan way ahead. So I didn't know that I was going to share the screen. I would have had it all set up. I apologize for that.
Got you,
No
sir.
problem. No problem at all, Qadir. I thought we had discussed it, but no problem.
Okay, let's see here.
Charles White had started screen share. This meeting is being recorded.
Good. There you go. Thank you very much.
Okay, you just said,
Okay, my name is Qadir. My name is Qadir Abdus-Sabur, and what you're looking at on the screen there is the cover of my latest book. I've written 8 books. This is the 8th one. This is the last one. And this one is called Spiritual Boundaries. You can go to the next slide, please. Now, this book is a collection of 56 essays. I wrote these essays over a 2-year period, and I actually began writing them after Donald Trump was elected, voted out of office when President Biden became the president. Some of you may remember that after that election, the people in California, there was a news clip about the people in California dancing and singing in the street after Donald Trump had lost the election. So I thought that spoke volumes of how the country felt about what was going on. And I thought to think about that song. The song that came to my mind then was shouted out around the world is Dancing in the Street. Call it out around the world. You know, you guys probably know the song better than I do.
Yeah.
Go to the next one, please. So now, the idea here is that the problem that I was trying to address in this book is one that's really ubiquitous. It's something that really affects America very greatly. And that is the idea that we have lost or we are losing our spiritual connection, in my opinion. And the first thing I pointed out is that the Constitution says that we all have equal rights and it promises freedom, justice, and equality for all Americans. But in fact, you can go to the next screen, please. But in fact, what has happened is that the greedy people or those in power, political power, they use their influence to modify laws, to oppress people. And never should one person or one community or one idea impose upon another. So what I put forth the idea is that what's needed is a spiritual boundary. By a spiritual boundary, I mean that we have a moral standard and an ethical standard that all of us live by. Doesn't matter what our faith is, it's one moral standard, an ethical standard based on spiritual guidance. We have spiritual guidance in the Bible, we have spiritual guidance in the Quran, we have spiritual Bible guidance in other scriptures, and all the spiritual guidance that we have should guide us all morally. So we shouldn't cheat and lie, and the things that we've seen happening over the last, you name the interval, it's been going on a long time. It should not be going on. So what I tried to do in this book is to try to pick short essays. They're very short essays. You can read them real quickly. And what they do is they take some aspect of our life and show the connection between that aspect of our life and how moral guidance and a moral standard would help us all go closer and closer, and we would be able to achieve a just and equitable society. Next slide, please. So all the books are laid out articles are laid out the same way. I begin with a short description of some principle, either a physical principle or something that we see in our lives, or something that's happening on the news. Sometimes something's happening on the news motivate me. And then I'll go from that and I'll show what that means in the context of our experiences. And then the last thing I do is try to bring in, help everybody understand how if we all would follow one moral standard and one God consciousness, we would all be able to have a wholesome life in America. Next slide, please. So what I've done next is I put together some samples of these essays, and I'm going to explain them to you. And on your screen, you have a short summary of them. Now, you know a pendulum, like you take a watch on a chain and you swing it back and forth, back and forth. What happens if you hold it to one side and swing and let it go, it'll go from one side to the other and it'll keep going, but the arc gets a little smaller and smaller all the time until finally, if you just hold it long enough, that watch will come to rest. It'll stop. Well, that's because there's a force acting on that watch. It's called gravity. Gravity is pulling down on it. Well, gravity is something that exists in nature. So what I argue in this essay is that if you think about it, people are kind of like that. We have the people on the extreme right, the greedy and the selfish people who want everything to be their way. They don't care who likes it, who doesn't it. They change the laws, make things their way. And then we have people on the extreme left who are super liberal. They want everything their way. They want freedom to do anything, don't care who it infringes upon. So you have this battle between the extreme right and the extreme left. And in the essay, I point out that what happens over time, these two political positions pull on one another, and we see that when going from one seat of power, laws and legislation on one side, and laws and legislation on the other side. So when President Barack Obama was elected, that was way contradictory to the people on the right. So they had to come back and make sure that the pendulum swung in the opposite direction, and that's how Trump got it. So now Trump got out. So now here we're facing with the same thing again in this election cycle. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But the point that I'm making here is that gravity is something that exists in nature, and nature will not allow that imbalance to exist. And that's like divine intervention. That's like the Almighty saying, no, we can't have extremism on the right. We can't have the greedy and the selfish overpowering everything. And then on the same side, it goes to the left. No, we can't have those people think that they're free to do anything they want to. No, it's got to be a middle ground. It has to be a balance. And that's the divine intervention that we point out in this particular essay called The Pendulum of Power. Next slide, please. This one is I was born and raised in Philadelphia, and I moved here to the Virginia. When we moved out here, I had never lived in the country, but only for summer visits, my family in Carolina, but I never built a house or anything. But we built a house out here. We bought this piece of land and it was all wooded, nothing but woods on it. So I began to think and look around me. It's real quiet out here. Man, I mean, I can sit on my porch and listen to the grass grow. Wasn't like that in Philadelphia. But looking at the trees and the forest, I began to think about them. And the forest is real pretty. Those of you who live in the rural areas, or maybe in some of the suburbs, you have them too. The forest is real pretty. You find all kinds of trees in there. You find evergreen trees. There'll be snow on the ground and the evergreen still got its leaves. And then you find oak trees. Then in the fall comes, the oak trees shed their leaves and the leaves fall down on the ground, and the leaves decompose and provide nutrients for the soil. And the woods themselves, the trees themselves, the hardwoods that come out of the hickory tree, the wood that comes from the hickory tree is used for axe handles and maul handles and stuff like that. And a cedar tree, the sapwood inside the tree, in the very center of the cedar is red wood, and they use that to line cedar chests. And you can put your clothes and stuff in a cedar chest, and it preserves them. It keeps the insects and stuff away from them. And those of you who've ridden, if you're taking a ride through the country, you see an old barn look like it's been standing for a long time. Those barns were made out of poplar. Poplar can withstand all kinds of weather. You can take a poplar tree and cut it into boards and build a tobacco barn or else a silo, and it'll stand there for 100 years. The rain and stuff, the weather would color it, but it won't it'll still stand. And in this argument, this particular essay, I've tried to point out that that's the way people are. People are the same way. Almighty God gave us each a unique characteristic, but we have to be able to see that unique characteristic working together to see the beauty of the majestic forest. So we are, as people, are like that. When we grow to our fullest potential in whatever gift the Almighty has given us, then we can share that, and then together we will have a beautiful forest. And so here we see divine intervention in the Almighty showing us that if you just grow and you develop what He's given you, the gifts He's given you, then you'll be able to contribute positively to society. And the reason that's so important is because over the years, back in history, this is Black History Month, you know these things, that there have been many efforts to try to discredit people of color. Many efforts. And all these things deny human potential of people of color. But it's happened in other places in the world too. So I'm not trying to say we have no monopoly on this, because the same thing happened to the Native Americans, the Japanese were put in concentration camp, Hispanic Americans, same thing happened in other parts of the world right now, this very day. So I'm not saying that it's unique to African American experience. I'm just saying that it exists where one group of people try to exploit another group of people, and they do not have the opportunity to develop to their full human potential. But if they develop to their full human potential, then we can have really experience justice for all. Next slide, please. This one I really enjoyed writing. I was born and raised in Philadelphia, and I was a member of Mother Bethel AME Church. Mother Bethel AME Church was the first AME church in America. And when I was a kid growing up, there was we'd go downstairs in the basement and we could actually see a monument to the Underground Railroad right there in the church. So I grew up knowing all about Underground Railroad, Black history, all the way up to I was in the Marine Corps, and I've seen a lot of things, but my life was formed by those early experiences in Mother Bethel AME Church. But I went to Vietnam. I was sitting there in a foxhole one night. Some of you might relate to this. And we were taking mortar rounds in. You all can remember those days. And I said to myself, what prevents this mortar round from dropping right on my bunker? Because a bunker won't stop a mortar round. But right at that instant, I realized that God was in control. That very instant, I realized that there was a power more powerful than those rockets and bombs that was coming on, more powerful than all the things going around me. That had my life. He had my life in His hand. Now it was okay then. I was really comfortable. So when I got back, I got to begin to search around for a better understanding of religion. And then I began, and I just discovered Islam. And the thing that struck me about Islam is that when I learned about it, it said, before God, all men are equal as teeth on a comb. Wasn't no superiority of the white man or the black man or a tall man, a short man, or what language. Before God, everybody was the same equal as the teeth on a comb. And that resonated with me. That made it with me. So this particular essay, I look at the Lord's Prayer from the Bible, and I look at the ayat of the throne from the Quran, and I compare the two. And what I found is that the words are different, and they're written in different texts, but the meanings in relationship to us human beings to Almighty God is exactly the same. The relationship to God, to all of us, is exactly the same. Then I began to realize that although we try to emphasize, those people who are in power who want to keep us divided, would try to emphasize there's great differences between us. In the truth, there's only one God Almighty. He created us all. He made us into nations and tribes, and we had our own unique experiences based on our families and where we live, but He's the creator of us all. So if we could understand that and get by reasons to find differences, then again, we would have a move towards equality and social justice for all. Next slide, please. This one I wrote this essay in Black History Month last year. And what I tried to do here is show that if you think about African American history in the United States, if you look at 400 years of it, there's incidents. This happened and that happened and this happened and happened. but we really can't appreciate how the Almighty intervened on behalf of these oppressed people, just like he's intervened on behalf of other oppressed people in the world. We can't really see that unless we look at the whole 400 years as one long continuum. So that's what I did. I looked at the whole 400 years, and I broke it up into 3 distinct areas. The first group was the period I called the period of enslavement. And this period was characterized by individual people who wanted to make a change, like Nat Turner or Harriet Tubman. These people wanted to make a change. They were doing something themselves about it. They were going to try to make a change. And then the next period I refer to as the period of the development. And this is the period between the Civil War and 1900s. And this is when we began to see things where African Americans came together and formed institutions like Tuskegee, for example, pulling our resources, like this organization that I've never heard of this organization before being on this broadcast now, but I think that's an excellent idea. Providing homes for homeless veterans, I think that's an excellent idea. Those institution building like that. This is what was happening during the developmental stages. And the third stage I call the period of empowerment. And the empowerment is when people began to come together and recognize that they could work cooperatively and bring about change. And this, things like the Civil Rights Act of 1964 with Johnson, NAACP was formed in 1909. We had the Nation of Islam, we had the Black Panther Party. Things were organized, Black Ship Line, all these things were organized. People came together with a common goal and a common consciousness to try to bring about a more meaningful change. They worked collectively for that. They worked real collectively. And it's real interesting because when you look at the history of the NAACP, we know about many of the people that participated, but what we don't always know is that there were several prominent Caucasians who were part of that development, like John Dewey for one. So we have to understand that when Almighty God decides that he wants to move moral consciousness and moral standards, it affects all people, and all good people will walk forward and participate in bringing about meaningful change. So that was that particular essay really shows that we are 2 rays from the same light. Next slide, please. So in this particular essay, I was a math teacher. My undergraduate work was in mathematics. So I taught mathematics from elementary school right up through the university before I stopped teaching. And I always looked at geometry. I like geometry. But geometry, there are 3 basic elements: the point, the line, and the plane. And the point, if you look at it metaphorically, just think about it metaphorically, a point can represent a single idea, a point of view, if you will. A line could represent 2 different points of view, one going to the right, one going to the left, different points of view. And they're at odds with one another. People on the left want to do this, people on the right want to do that. They're just different points of view going opposite direction. And there's always a tension, always a conflict between the 2. But a plane, it takes 3 points to make a plane. Now, a plane we can see as a represented community of people. You have the people on the right, the people on the left, and the third point is really the point of compromise. The point of compromise. When both extremes realize that they'll only have a peaceful community when they learn to compromise. And this is the point in this essay, is that this is how divine intervention helps us recognize that we have to work cooperatively in order to bring about meaningful changes in our lives. And it's very easy to do. All we have to do is to set moral boundaries, moral boundaries, moral standards, human boundaries of excellence. And if we do that, nobody's willing to take advantage of somebody else, then we'll be able to appreciate and realize social justice. Next plane, please. Next slide, please. So what I've tried to do here is I've tried to outline 3 places where you can buy the book if you'd like to. One is Amazon.com, and these links are hot. So if you just pull up the link on your tablet or your computer or your phone, you just click on it, it'll take you to the right page in each case. First is Amazon.com, the second one is Barnes & Noble, and the third one is my own website called Spiritual Boundaries. I invite you to read the book and write a review. Put your review right on Amazon or Barnes and Noble or Spiritual Boundaries, and share it with others. Thank you very much. I'm so happy to have an opportunity to be with my brothers and sister veterans. So I yield back to James, I guess.
Qadir,
Or Calvin.
if I may, please forgive me. I didn't allow you the opportunity to introduce yourself and tell us about some of your history before we got into the slides. If you don't mind, could you just kind of give us a brief history of where you are, some of your educational background, and what are you doing now, and if you don't mind.
Okay. Well, I was born and raised in Philadelphia. Like I told you, I went to the worst high school in the city. Absolutely the worst high school in the city. My wife went to the best. I can remember one time in high school where we took a aptitude test. My 11th grade teacher told me, go home and tell your mother, don't spend one dime putting you in college because it's a waste of money. She said, I know you come from a poor family, so tell her, don't spend one dime putting you in college. Well, that didn't sit too well with me at the time. And then another time we was in class and we had it took a history test. And the test had one word answers, like 1776 or George Washington. One word question, one word answers. And there were 10 questions. And I had a buddy who was an Italian. I lived right on the borderline between the African Americans and Italians together. And I had a buddy, real good buddy. He sat right beside me. And we took the test. And the scores came back. He had an A and I had an A minus. So we compared papers, and we was friends. And so I asked the teacher, I said, why did Ryan Hensel get an A and I got an A minus? What mistake did I make? So the teacher told me, your first mistake was being born. So when I reported it to the principal laughed. Said, oh, she was just joking. But that helped me understand just how terrible the education system was in the United States. When I look back on it, the time that I was going through that, I didn't see it. But when I got older and looked back on it, then I saw it. So I taught mathematics. I went to the college first when I was young, out of high school, the worst school in the city. And I didn't do very well in college. So I ended up going to the Marine Corps. So just before I got in the Marine Corps, I wrote a letter back to the college and asked them would they admit me back in, and they said they saw nothing in my past that indicated I would do any better if they gave me another chance. So they wouldn't let me in. So I knocked around and I finally got my footing and went on and went to another college and graduated magna cum laude, and went to another one and graduated cum laude. I then kept on going and got my master's degree, my PhD. And when I finished, my mom said to me, well, you've been going to school for 48 years. Are you now finished? So that's kind of where I am. I've organized schools. I've started schools. I have a school now. It's an online middle school. And we teach online middle school classes. We have 2 students from Kenya. We have teachers from Pakistan. We teach all up and down. Students from California, here in Virginia, Atlanta, Georgia, and it's middle school program for 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. And what we're trying to do is take the youngsters and transition them to high school. So that's kind of where my emphasis are, what I do.
That is so great. Can you give us your contact information, your website?
Yeah. My email address is Q as in Queen, A as in Apple, S as in Sam, 1944 @gmail.com. That's QAS 1944 @gmail.com. That's the best way to contact me.
Wonderful. Well, it was so informative. Well, I got a question. You said in the church you were able to view the Underground Railroad. Was that what you were saying? Did it pass through there?
It was a stop. My church was the first African American. My church was the first African American Methodist church in America, and it was founded by Richard Allen. Richard Allen was a blacksmith during the time in the 1800s, and his blacksmith shop was a stop on the Underground Railroad. And I learned all that growing up. I grew up in all that history. In the basement of the church, we had a monument to Richard Allen and all the history of the Underground Railroad and everything.
Wow,
Right there in the church.
that was outstanding. Did they have, don't, the congregation, or did they have tours to see that? That's so historical.
Yeah, it's a historical site now. Now the church is a historical landmark.
Right, right. That is so wonderful. Thank you so much. That was such good information. And congratulations on your book.
Well, thank you very much.
All right. So Charles, although he's muted, not muted, but muted, his picture's muted out. Can you read our next guest, please?
Sure. Our next guest is George Brummell. Is that right?
Brummell.
Brummell. Okay. George joined the Army in 1962 and I make sure I said George Brummell joined the Army in 1962 and took basic training for Fort Jackson, South Carolina, then served in Korea in 1962 and 63. From there, he was stationed at Fort Hood, Texas, Germany, Fort Devens, Massachusetts, Camp Drum, New York, to Hawaii's 25th Infantry Division. In 1966, he was shipped to Vietnam as an infantry sergeant, where he was blinded because of an enemy mine explosion. However, he was blessed to be alive, but his company commander and 2 others didn't make it. After 5 months in the hospital at Brooks Medical Center, San Antonio, Texas, he was discharged and settled in Akron, Ohio, his wife's hometown. George worked for a while at Goodwill Industry and packed light bulbs at a sheltered workshop for the blind. Since he was a high school dropout, he decided to go back to school and earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in social work at the University of Akron, and went on to graduate school at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio, for a master's in social work. In December 1984, he was hired in Chicago as the Midwestern Field representative for the Blinded Veterans Association, and after a year of dedicated work traveling in 7 states, identifying and assisting blind veterans, he was promoted to National Field Service Director, subsequently relocating to the Blinded Veterans Association headquarters in Washington, D.C. In 2001, along with several other Vietnam veterans, that is, he biked across Vietnam. He rode a tandem all 1,200 miles from Hanoi to Ho Chi Minh City to help us with establishing relationships between Vietnam and the United States. 4 years later, he retired, and he and his wife traveled many places in the Northern Hemisphere, and he published memoir, Shades of Darkness, and later published 2 children's books, The Mole and the Violin and The Mole and the Violin Part 2. In 2004, my lovely bride, Maria, and I relocated to Dover, Delaware, where we presently reside. He has many accomplishments and awards. Take it away, Calvin, and Army veteran Brummell.
Thank you, Charles. I won't delay, Mr. Brummell. You can take this opportunity to present yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and what are you doing now?
Okay. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to be in the presence of everyone this afternoon. It is indeed a pleasure. You have heard pretty much my resume. I'm quite proud of this. I am originally from the Eastern Shore of Maryland. Maryland is basically broken down into 2 parts, the Eastern Shore and the Western Shore. I'm originally from the Eastern Shore, the shores of the Chesapeake Bay. The Eastern Shore is called the Delmarva area, which means Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia. And I'm a proud resident at the moment of Dover, Delaware, which is approximately 41 miles from my hometown. I'm from a very small place, and it's called Fredericksburg, Maryland, in which I was raised by my grandmother. And since this is Black History Month, I want to put a little bit of emphasis on living with my grandmother. My grandmother was illiterate. She worked primarily in canning factories, and I used to assist her with picking cucumbers and tomatoes and strawberries and string beans and all the things surrounded by truck farming on the eastern shore of Maryland. My grandmother was fair-skinned, and she had long flowing hair. And I always thought that my grandmother was part Native American, in which the history of a lot of African Americans go back to Native Americans. And I thought my grandmother had that look of being Native American. However, when I did my ancestry DNA, there was nothing to indicate that I was part Native American. So I am assuming, like what other people feel about their foreparents being part Native American. However, I discovered the look my grandmother had was as a result of her being part white. And I'm finding that that's the case with the thoughts of a lot of African American feeling that way as well. In dealing with Native Americans and the relationship between Native Americans and African Americans goes back to when the first slave ships came to Jamestown, Virginia in 1619. The first African American that came upon these shores was as a result of I believe it was a Dutch ship that pulled into Jamestown. They were in desperate need of food. So they traded food to the pilgrims there and or the newcomers to America in Jamestown for slaves. That was the contract was there. You give me some slaves. I forget exactly how many it was, and you give me some food. And then the ship was eventually on its way to their destination. So the slaves that came here at that time were indentured and remained indentured slaves until I don't remember exactly what year. I think it was somewhere in the 1650s, 1670s, where it found that it would be more beneficial to the newcomers to have slaves as opposed to indentured slaves. At that time, the purpose of the slaves were here was quite clear. They were more appropriate for farming because they were not susceptible to some of the diseases that the white person had brought to this country. So as a result of colonialization, most of the male Native Americans were killed, and which left Native American females. So at some point, the Native American females and the African American slaves, primarily the males, coupled together, and they were kept in the same concern, so that Native Americans and African at that time, I can't call them African American because they were not Americans at that time, they were Africans, shared cultures, food and religions, and all the things surrounded with being able to live in this country. And that is where the relationship in African Americans and Native Americans grew at the time. I thought that was an interesting bit of history to show how the Native Americans and Africans were coupled. Back to myself. After I was injured in Vietnam back in 1966 as a result of a mine explosion, as my resume indicated on my bio, my company commander was killed and a couple of my squad members. I was taken and out of the combat zone by helicopters, and God bless helicopters, because if not for helicopters, I would not be here speaking to you this afternoon. I was taken to the Philippines for a quick operation, and then eventually placed at Brooks Medical Center in San Antonio, Texas, because I had experienced some burns. And Brooks Medical Center is known as the burn center for the United States military. This is where I stayed for 5 months. And I thought that I received some excellent care at the military hospital at the time. Eventually leaving and going to Akron, Ohio. I did not want to move back to my hometown in Fredericksburg, which even today the population is about 2,000, in which they didn't have any resources for a blind person. And I was still trying to find myself and trying to collect as many resources as I could in order to, let's put it, survive. I went to Akron, Ohio, my former wife's hometown, because it was a larger population and had more resources there. And decided to go back to school in my 30s, eventually earning a bachelor's degree in social work, and moved on to graduate school at Case Western Reserve University, and to being hired as a Midwestern field representative for the Blinded Veterans Association. I had quite a few experiences as Midwestern blind representative, and I'll tell you one. I went to Detroit one time, and in order for me to navigate those cities, I used to have to hire someone to drive me to meet with blinded veterans to determine what assistance I can, as a representative for the Blinded Veterans Association, to assist them with adjusting to blindness, being recognized for blindness, make referrals to blind rehabilitation, make referrals to these resources within the sound. Whatever I could do for the Blinded Veterans Association, that's what I did. And I exercised some creativity in doing this. Well, this one community I think it was a project, the driver chose not to go to this community unless he had his .38 caliber pistol with him. He took it with him. And when I went into this project, there were a couple individuals there that was blind as a result of lie thrown in their face by their mate, their wife or their live-in. And then I was told by the person whose face was mangled as a result of this lie, that he was told instead of using water in this lie, they were using urine instead, because it would have been more potent. I also went to, and I ran into a couple individuals that were blinded that way in Detroit. I also went to North Carolina, the Chapel Hill area, where they have a lot of racehorses. And I ran into at least 4 individuals there were blind as a result of being kicked in the head by racehorses. So I had all kinds of experiences in dealing with individuals with blindness. I have had a illustrious career. I have had the fortunate opportunity to assist many veterans and by the representing the Blind Veterans Association. And I'm very, very proud of that. If there's any questions pertaining to me, I give you, forgot to mention my books. The first book I published was Shades of Darkness. It is a memoir of growing up on the Eastern Shore of Maryland, indigent, with an illiterate grandmother, and moving on along to the military, blindness, and beyond. And beyond was telling my story and adjusting myself to blindness. I have always wanted to write a children's book, and I have a granddaughter that plays violin, and apparently pretty good with that. And one day when she was about 8 years old, we got to discussing some of the things that I look forward to doing, and some of the things that she had in her plans for the future. So I decided to ask her, would she assist me in writing a book where we would use her as a protagonist. And I wanted to pick an animal, and I picked a mole because of his blindness. And that was something that I had grown to know as a result of my blindness. So I used the mole as a protagonist. The moles call himself Mikey, and Mikey ends up meeting a mouse called Samantha. And the story goes on there, and then it eventually winds up in an odyssey where the mole, the mouse, and eventually run into a rabbit where they experience interesting encounters with other animals. And I wanted to give children an idea of what it possibly could be like as an animal living in the wilderness, experiencing all these hardships. So I took the opportunity to describe all of these animals and do research on each of them to really give kids an opportunity to know this animal. Take for an example, a rabbit. There's a lot of information that I did not know about these animals. So the big eyes of a rabbit shows pretty close, it sees pretty close to 360 degrees, where these big eyes can look up in the sky for predators like hawks and be able to see what's in front of him at the same time. If a rabbit encounters danger, it bangs its rear paws on the ground to warn other rabbits there's danger around. I learned that moles has about 600 more times in the way that they feel as opposed to a man's hand, the sensitivity that a mole has in traveling through tunnels about 600 times more than what a man's hand is. A mole also stores waste materials in one chamber, sometimes food in another chamber, and they're able to move rapidly backwards and forwards through tunnels, and is able to navigate because of his hair on his body as it goes through tunnels. It's able to navigate backwards nearly as fast as it can move forward. So all of these little tidbits, I took the joy and explaining to individual children and letting them know as much about animals as possible. One book is called The Mole in the Violin. The children's book is called The Mole in the Violin, A Bunny's Odyssey. If you have any questions, I would be great to.
I have one. What was easier for you to write, children's books or adult?
I'm
fiction?
sorry.
What was easier for you to write, children's books or adult nonfiction?
I think it would probably be my memoir, because it flowed as my life flowed. And I just had to pick out what I thought would interest the reader about my life story. With the children's book, I had to do a great more research, and it was a little bit slower and a bit more tedious, I think.
Wow. And are your children's books in any library, schools, or online? How would one?
You can go online, can search for my name. B is in boy, Rummel, George, or the title of the book. And you can get it on Amazon and some of the other bookstores as well.
What's the title again?
The Mole and the Violin, because the mole ended up playing violin after befriending Emma. As a friend, Emma teaches the mole how to play a violin, and he was able to give underground concerts. So one is called The Mole and the Violin, and the other is called The Mole and the Violin, A Bunny's Odyssey.
Wow, well, congratulations on what your books and what you're doing, and God bless what you have gone through.
Thank you very much.
Get to where you are now. We commend you. Okay, so it looks like we're going to start winding it down here. Mashab, girlfriend, you come on, but do you have anything to add to today's meeting?
I'm just intrigued. Both of these gentlemen are in my regional group. And I'm so intrigued that I had no idea the things that they've experienced and the things they have done. And I'm just sitting here shaking my head, because one of my first rotations as a respiratory therapist was at Brooke Army Medical Center on the burn unit. And it just brings back a lot of memories and a lot of things. And then Mr. Qadir, what he endured, and he kept pressing on. Both of these gentlemen went through so much. And I want to say, the only thing I can just say is thank you for paving the way for me in my military career and going to school. I didn't have to endure what you guys had to endure, and the hardship that you went through. But it's like, only thing I can say is God had a purpose, because it was just weird for me to think to bring both of you on this show together. I look forward to getting better in touch with you more and talking to you on a more personal basis. And I'm going to make sure that this broadcast, I'm going to let the Mid-Atlantic Regional Group know about this broadcast and have them listen to it, because we have two fabulous men that are in my Mid-Atlantic Regional Group. And I have to say my Mid-Atlantic Regional Group, since that I'm the president of right now. And I'm so proud of that.
And I'm so honored.
And I just want to let you know, Mr. Brummell's book can also be downloaded on Bard. I've listened to both of them on all three of his books on BARD, the blind resource library that we have. And I'm also in the process of reading Mr. Qadir's. And once I finish reading it all, then I'll do a review for you, most definitely.
Great.
And I'll be pushing both you guys, both of you guys' books, because I want people to know about you and what you've done.
That is so
Thank
cool. Mashai, back up a little bit. You cut your head off.
I got my head cut off.
There you go.
Hey,
Oh, this is such a
Connie, if I may, Mr. Brummell, your experience with the Blinded Veterans Association is vital. Do you think maybe you could act as a mentor for some of our groups that may not know what the mission is all about?
Yes, you can contact me
Okay.
whenever you desire. My email address is monkeymet, MONKEYMET @comcast.net. That's monkeymet.
Monkeymet. Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
George, you turned your light off. Can't see.
Oh, I did. You know, my wife came in here.
Oh. Okay.
Miss Connie, you have to get used to working around us blinded veterans.
We
I can't realize my
We
head
always
cut
do the
off and the
dark,
lights
yeah.
off from nothing.
Electricity.
save electricity. I love it. Well, I'm just as honored. I know Jimmy and Charles are so honored to have had such a distinguished group of gentlemen on today.
I got
I'm
educated.
so proud of you and what you've gone through and what you've achieved. There's no way that God is not in your space. You know, he's guiding you and your role models. And I'm just overwhelmed and thrilled. And of course, I want to praise Calvin for bringing you on, but please come back and share more information. I mean, we have a large network. I don't know if they've shared with you that we have over 183,000 views and listeners. And they need to hear this. Many of them have disabilities and visually impaired, and they need to hear that it's not over, you know?
Because a lot of them just end up, once they lose their sight, they become sedentary in their lifestyle, and they think that this blindness defines you, and we cannot let this blindness define who we are.
Yeah, for sure. Jimmy, you have anything to add to that?
I'd like to.
No, I'm just honored.
I
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I just feel so honored to be in the company of these gentlemen. I mean, I'm just overwhelmed with what they were saying and what they've gone through, and how they pressed on. You know,
And role models today. You know,
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's just amazing.
And please excuse me for the mistake that I made, and I hope my sis Connie will forgive me.
No, I'm not. I'm choking the heck out of you when
I was so busy preparing.
I can't wait till we shut this thing down because I'm coming after you.
I'm shutting down. I'm shutting down at the same time.
It's all right. We all make mistakes, you know. We
You're polite and everything, but Charles, you know me.
but, you know, we all make mistakes. You know, this 2024, we gonna go move forward and clean it up and then move. You know, I'm over here got the flu, coughing like crazy when I'm muted. But you know what? This was very educational. Even you know, your presentation was great. You know, about the whole hotel and all of that. I've heard parts of that, but that was you know, you took it to a different level. And everybody, the poem that Matt gave, that was great. And you guessed, you know, Mr. You know, I mean to get it right now, see, because you know I'm over here not reading. I'm not reading anything right now, but you guys were great. Absolutely, everything that was told today was absolutely necessary to hear.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. And
You know,
we think we're so honored. And don't let this be your last time, please.
absolutely, we need to hear more of this. These books were great, and these stories are great, and let's keep it going because this is the kind of stuff that defines the change in history.
That's right.
So
And,
I'd like to add one more thing if I could.
yes, sir.
I have a blog I've been writing for about 2 years, and if anybody would like to have to sign up for to receive the blog, just send me an email with your email address, and I'll add you. And then every time I publish a blog, you automatically get a link to read it. I publish maybe once a month, once or twice a month, write an article like the ones I just shared with you. And so just send me an email and tell me you'd like to be added to my subscription list, and I'll be happy to add anybody.
did you not say that you have a Zoom class? Or I know that you
I have a middle school.
Excuse
It's a
me?
middle school for youngsters. For
Uh-huh.
youngsters, yeah, we have a middle school for eighth, ninth, seven. I'm sorry, sixth, seventh, and eighth graders.
Mhm.
Children like mainly homeschoolers or children that want some enrichment. And the idea is that the school systems, many of them don't really serve our needs for our children. They just do things, they push them, pass them on through, and they don't learn anything. So
That's
we have a
right.
program that helps youngsters come out of elementary school, and then we work to get them really ready for college. We have a complete program, we have history and math and so on. Complete program to prepare the youngsters to go to college. A lot of most of our students now are homeschoolers. Parents have elected not to have their children be in the public school system. So we've been doing this for, I think this is the ninth year that.
Well, God bless what you're doing. It's just amazing. And maybe, one of your little students will come on and speak on behalf of what you've taught them or what they're learning. I mean, I know you have to get a consent from the parent, but we have youngsters that
Yeah.
need to know this as well.
Yeah.
So to think about it anyway.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And we're very
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I was
okay.
happy to learn about the great work that you guys are doing. I wasn't aware of it before. I think this is excellent, providing the homes for vets. There's so
Say
much
that
need
again.
among us.
Say that again, sir.
I was happy to learn of the good work that you're doing, providing the home for the vets.
Right. Well, I sure can use your expertise too, because we need help. I need a professional such as yourself to help us, get it going. We're doing some great things, but we just need more support. And
Connie, you want to mention your fundraiser that you got coming up?
yeah, it's still in the planning stages, but we have a fundraiser that's coming up in June. Like, we haven't gotten the date confirmed. It's either the Saturday 22nd or the 29th, I believe. But we have a phenomenal supporter, Dr. Felicia Banks, who's with the Corps of Engineers and the Department of Defense, who's actually spearheading this for Operation Confidence. And we have some, I don't want to mention any of the celebrities that's supposed to be out there because we haven't gotten the clearance from them yet, but it should be pretty good. And it's going to be in Inglewood. And we're looking at hopefully raising quite a bit of money. We need it because we have a lot of stuff we have to still get, like permits and you name it, we need it. And of course, I need Calvin's support because it's going to most definitely will have blinded veterans adaptive equipment in there as well. So we have a lot of work to do, but it's exciting. God won't let me stop. Boy, have we had many doors to slam in our face, mainly because I'm not a veteran. And I don't mind saying it's a lady of color. Yeah. I mean, let's just be real, How dare me wanting to do something of this magnitude? But we're so blessed because we have someone who has donated us 10 acres of prime land in San Bernardino. And we have a world-renowned architect who believed in us and said that they're going to do the drawing, the architectural plan. So God is looking at us. We're going to get all the rest of it.
Yeah.
But it's a spiritual thing.
That's right. That's right.
And in closing,
Right.
my reasons for working so hard with this, I have a background with advocating for individuals with disabilities, but my heart was just broken when I went downtown. The Garment District and Skid Row is right next to each other. I like to design clothes, and I ran into an encampment of veterans living out of their wheelchairs on the streets of Skid Row. And I've been on this campaign ever since. Couldn't help it. I mean, how dare society do our heroes like this, you know? So we're gonna make a difference. We got Jimmy, we got Calvin, we got Mashad for sure, and we're gonna make it work. We have our team of experts, and we love to have you on board because I need to learn more. I'm just out here just flying in the breeze, but I need to learn. I need an infrastructure. That's what I need. So
Yeah.
if you know anyone that can assist us in that area, please help. But anyway, we thank you so much. We're so honored to have you on, and we're going to wind it down now. Charles, you got any last comments? We got my Charles over here. I'm so sorry you sick, but you was a trooper. Charles is actually the vice president of the Paralyzed Veterans of America, and he's one of our board members, and I'm so happy to have him on the team. He's gonna be one of the ones that's continuing this mission as well as our pharmacists over here. Jimmy's so polite chewing that gum. but he's a pharmacist and worked for the VA for how many years, Jimmy?
Including my time in the service and with the VA, it was 26 years.
Yeah, see, so he's like actually gave his just dues as well. So anyway, we're gonna thank you all. We're gonna sign off now. I'm so thrilled and honored to have had you on the show. And I'm looking forward to, please don't let this be your last time coming on the show. We need to have your information. And in closing, I just want to say that I would like to encourage our viewers and our listeners to go to Operation Confidence's resource page. We got tons of resources in there, including the Blind Veterans of America contact information. So that's, if you go to our website, www.operation.org, you'll be able to find some amazing resources. And also, we want to remind our viewers and our listeners is the reasons for the show and our goals for the show is to raise awareness about Operation Confidence's mission, which is to provide stable housing for our veterans with the wide range of supportive services. So we encourage you to please get involved with our grassroots efforts. And if you're interested, send us an email at info@operationconfidence.org. And I would love to share with you all that as of today, Operation Confidence American Invisible Heroes had over 183,000 views. And we have 1.35 million subscribers. So I want to thank you all for listening to us. And you can see that we just come off the cuff. We don't have much scripts going on, but some kind of way people like
it works out, yeah.
Yeah, it just works out, you know. Yeah. So I'll thank you all so much. Oh, and by the way, I don't want you to forget that we are streaming on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, as well as Amazon, iHeartRadio, Stitcher. We have our own Instagram and our own Operation Confidence blog. So we're getting the word out there. A lot of people are listening to us, and I thank you so listening and viewing us. And I thank you so much for your time. God bless you all. And Kevin, we're going to see you again next month, right? With some more dynamic guests.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye, everybody. Be safe.
Bye.
Bye.
Ladies,
Bye.
video, and then we'll see you guys next. And
Yeah, Charles will be much better next time. We're gonna make sure we get him well.
I'm gonna be well.
That's right. You got things to do.
Alrighty.
Okay, give us a sign off.
Our light that has started screen share Zoom meeting. This meeting is
Press play.
Operation Confidence. America's invisible hero. Invisible hero.
Bye-bye.